Hi, this is Omar at Top 5 eBikes, and this is a comparison of two really popular cargo e-bikes at the moment, the Flyer L885 made by Radio Flyer and the RadWagon 4 made by Rad Power Bikes. I also did want to mention that if you're interested in either of these bikes or both of these bikes, you should watch the full reviews that we have on both of them, because we do have full reviews that I've published on each of these. So check them out. There's a lot more details, especially about the specs, test rides, and then also our final thoughts. So in this comparison, what we're going to do is we're going to take 5 categories, which are value, performance, quality, ride quality, and service. And we're going to compare each of these e-bikes, and we're going to tell you which one we think is a winner in each of these categories. All right, so let's start off with the first category, which is value. And what do I mean by value? Not only do I mean like what you're getting for this e-bike, I'm talking about the cost of this e-bike. And right now I'm going to pop up a spreadsheet where I have the price of these e-bikes, but I'm not talking about just the price, but I'm also thinking about the accessories, because if you're going to buy one of these cargo e-bikes, you're likely going to buy a bunch of the accessories. You can see here that both of these e-bikes, both of these cargo e-bikes are outfitted with probably the most popular accessories. Like you see that I have the cargo kit on the Flyer L885, and you can see that I have the caboose on the RadWagon. You see that I have a cushioned seat. The only thing that's missing on this one are the floorboards. So that's the only thing I haven't gotten on the RadWagon, which is probably what I would want to get. You also see a front basket. You see that this is missing a front basket. Now, when you add it all up, and I have a list of all the accessories that I would get on a cargo e-bike, the RadWagon costs a little bit more. So it's just a little bit more, not too much. But right now, Flyer has a back to school special where you can get all this stuff, including the front basket, and it comes with a couple other items like a phone holder and a mirror, and that's all $2,100. Whereas the RadWagon's around $2,600, so a little bit over $2,500. So I think that if you're talking about $500 value-wise, then right now the Flyer L885 I think is a winner in this category by far. The next category is performance. And almost in every category, the RadWagon has more power or more torque than the Flyer. When we think about performance, the battery is a big part or a big component of performance. That's about the only category where you could see they have the same battery size, but the RadWagon blows the Flyer out of the water when it comes to the motor size, torque, and then also the controller. The thing about the controller that's interesting is with the RadWagon, you can actually update the controller for a controller that actually will have more output when it comes to amps. So you can actually get more power out of the motor if you were to update the controller. And that's not something that I'm aware of that you could buy for the Flyer. At least there's not people that are selling it like there are for the RadWagon. So not only are the stats here, not only do we have the stats here to show you that the RadWagon's more powerful, I can also tell you from my own experience in just riding both of these e-bikes that the RadWagon does better going up hills. Now, it is a rear hub motor, and if you lived in a really hilly area, I would recommend a mid-drive rather than a rear hub. But if we're talking about rear hub motors and how well they do going up inclines, the RadWagon's going to do much better. Actually, on the ride here, my friend who's behind the camera, he was riding the RadWagon, and we did a full throttle test going over the freeway, and he blew me out of the water. So I think the RadWagon, when it comes to performance, clearly is a winner in this category. The next category is quality. Now, this is a really subjective one relative to the first two, where I can throw out some numbers and we can quantify it. Again, this one's a little bit more subjective, but I'm going to try my best to tell you how each of these do in this category and which one I think is a winner. Now, with the RadWagon 4 from Rad Power Bikes, this is a 4th iteration. So I think quality-wise, you know that they've iterated on previous models. They've made some changes to the frame, to the tire size, to the motor. So they made a lot of changes to this e-bike over the 4 iterations. And so I think that shows that it's a really good quality e-bike. The other thing about Rad is that because they've been around for such a long time, and because there's this ecosystem of other e-bike companies that are selling parts for their bikes, you could easily get replacement parts for the RadWagon. So I think that quality-wise, not only is it a solid e-bike that they've built, there's also parts. So when you do run into issues, you could easily get a replacement part. Now into the Flyer. The thing about the Flyer that's really interesting is, although it's a brand new e-bike and it's a brand new e-bike brand, and they only have 2 different models, it's backed by a gigantic company, Radio Flyer, that's been around for a really long time, and one that's been known for quality. I mean, if you think about their wagons, how many of these wagons have you seen around that are 40, 50, 60 years old? A ton of them. And in fact, my own children, they have a couple Flyer products. We have a tricycle and we have a scooter. So I think what's really nice about Radio Flyer is that they have the backing of a really big company, and you could really tell in the attention to detail on this e-bike, and then also the quality build. So just, you know, I talked about this in the review, like the weld jobs are really smooth. You could tell there was, again, a lot of attention to detail when it came to the paint, to the parts. There wasn't any issues that I saw with the frame when I unboxed this e-bike. And you could see this also in comments on message boards, whether it's on Electric Bike Review or on Reddit. A lot of people that have bought this bike, one of their first impressions is, wow, it's a quality build. So I agree with them. I think it's a really good quality build. And this was a really tough one because I think that the RadWagon, again, because it's in its 4th iteration, I think it is also a good quality build. So for me, in this category, I had to give them a tie. So I think they both are really good quality builds. All right, the next category is ride quality, which is a little bit different than the build quality. So this is more what I'm talking about here is how comfortable is it to ride. And both of these e-bikes are really comfortable, and it's a really good ride quality, I should say. The RadWagon has a lot of features that were made to make this bike more comfortable for the rider and a good ride quality, like the seat, the fact that you can adjust it in two different ways, the fact that you have an adjustable stem so you can adjust the handlebars to make it really comfortable, a lower standover height, the tire sizes, which they changed from the previous version of the RadWagon, so they made them smaller. Same thing with the Flyer. The Flyer has an adjustable stem, you have a lower standover height, you have this really innovative tire size difference. But I think, to me, in riding this e-bike, and one other thing I should mention is, as far as the handling of the e-bike, they're really similar. So I didn't feel like one, you know, was tougher to handle versus the other when I've been riding with my daughters, and I've ridden both of these e-bikes extensively at this point. But I think that the Flyer, for me, ride quality wise, is better because of two main things. One is that it has a lower standover height. So the standover height on the Flyer is about 19 inches. And with the RadWagon, it's about 23.5 inches, I believe. So it's about 4.5 inch difference, which doesn't seem like a lot. But, you know, if you're 5'6" or 5'8", that 4.5 inch difference can make a really big difference. The other reason why it's important is, if you have issues mounting and dismounting a bike, then the lower standover height really matters. So I think that is one thing, because to me, getting on and off of the bike is part of the ride quality, since it's the first thing you're going to do. And, you know, if you're going to stop, you're going to dismount the bike. The other reason why I think that this e-bike has better ride quality is this front tire. This front wheel is a 26 inch. And I didn't think it was a big deal when I was unboxing it, when I read about this e-bike. But as I've been riding it, this front wheel actually absorbs a lot of the shock. And this bike neither of these bikes have a front suspension. So this actually makes it a little bit of a smoother ride. And so for me, the fact that I have a smoother ride and that it's easy to mount and dismount relative to the RadWagon, that's why I think that the Flyer is going to win this category of ride quality. All right, now let's get to the last category, which is service. I think my initial thought with the Flyer L885 is that because they're part of Radio Flyer, that they'd be able to somehow access or leverage just being part of this gigantic company. And one thing that is clear is, if you go on their website, they have a ton of documentation. They have, you know, they've built out a lot of support for the people that have bought their bikes, which is not the norm for a new e-bike company. So that, you know, that in itself, I give them kudos for that. They actually built their company, they started their company the right way, and that they provided a lot of support for their customers. But e-bikes are a different beast. So it's not the same as a wagon or a tricycle or a scooter. And I think Rad has had, you know, they've obviously been around for a while now for quite a few years, and they've built not only a robust online service offering. So if you call them or you go online, there's people there that can answer questions about their e-bikes. If you have an issue or if you have a question, you can call them, you can email them. There's also quite a bit of documentation on their website. So they have documentation, they have videos online that they share on just how to maintain the bike, or how to, for example, how to put it together when you unbox it. So they do have a lot of support also for people that are going to do it themselves. And not only that, they also have brick and mortar stores. So right now, at the time of filming, they have six brick and mortar stores in the US, and they have 2 more that are about to open. So they're obviously investing more in having actual stores, which is amazing, because if you can go to the store to test ride their different e-bikes, you can service them there, and then you can buy accessories. So I think it's pretty clear that Rad is the winner when it comes to the servicing category, because they have a really robust online and phone support. They also have a really big online or a lot of online documentation and videos. And then on top of that, they have brick and mortar stores. All right, let's recap the 5 categories. The first one is value. To me, the Flyer L885 takes the value category, because right now for $2,100, you can get the cargo e-bike and you can get all the main accessories. So you would save around $500 relative to the RadWagon if you were to get the same accessories. In the performance category, the RadWagon will literally fly by the Flyer. It's got a stronger motor, more torque, and then also you can update the RadWagon's controller to get you even more power if that's what you wanted. The third category is quality, and I think this one is a tie, because I think they're both quality builds and really well-made e-bikes. The fourth one is ride quality, and to me, the Flyer has a more comfortable ride quality because of the lower standover height, and then also the 26-inch front tire, which absorbs a lot of the shock. And since these e-bikes don't have suspensions, I think that's really important. And then finally, we have service, and the RadWagon and Rad Power Bikes have a much better service offering, and they have brick and mortar stores. So I think that they win this category. So which one of these e-bikes is better? It depends. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but it really depends. It could depend on, where you plan to ride, how long you plan to ride, which company you're more comfortable with. So for example, if you were to ask me, hey Omar, which of these e-bikes should I buy, and you lived in a somewhat hilly area, I would likely recommend the RadWagon 4, just because it has more power, so the motor has more power and there's more torque. So I think that those are really important factors if you lived in a somewhat hilly area. Now, if you ask me, hey Omar, I want a cargo bike, but I want to ride long amounts of time or longer amounts of time, or I don't want to charge, or I can't charge on a consistent basis, then I would say, hey, get the Flyer. We didn't mention this in this comparison, but it is in the review. You can actually get a dual battery. So it's already set up for a second battery for an additional $500. And that's not something that's possible with the RadWagon. So I think it really depends on, what you're looking for, where you plan to ride, how long you plan to ride, and then also what company are you comfortable with. So if you've gone through the decision of buying a cargo e-bike recently and you were thinking about either of these bikes or both, then let us know which one you ended up buying, and let us know why you bought that particular bike and what you think of your purchase. Also, let us know if you have any questions or comments, and thank you for watching.